Hey everyone, it's Blake. Welcome in to episode number 83 of our WWE 2022 Save and TEW 2020. This is Raw for January week 1, our New Year's Day Raw. And I will go ahead and tell you, I have been waiting to get to this edition of Raw for quite a while now because I know that it is one that is going to set in motion so many different things. And my excitement level is very high. So, you will certainly know what I'm talking about as we get through this episode of Raw, but this is going to be a memorable one. Let's jump in. The pre-show. It is Mustafa Ali and Dijak teaming up to get the win over Akira Tozawa and Mansoor. 7-16 here, 59 overall. To be honest with you, I was wondering if we'd have any chemistry. We've had a pretty good run of tag team chemistry here with, Elias and Otis, Jeff and Ricochet, all these other kind of teams that we tried to put together to see if there would be any chemistry. I was wondering with Ali and Dijak. I was a little curious, but you will note that perhaps a new year, a new start for Dijak here, as he is the one getting the pin on Mansoor, so that is worth noting here. But no chemistry. We tried, but it didn't happen with this particular pairing. But that is, again, worth noting that Dijak gets the pin here on the pre-show. So 59 overall. And here we go. Let's jump in to the main edition of Raw. And like I said, this is going to be one of my favorite editions of Raw I've booked in this series thus far. I can say that with full confidence. Here we go. All right, and we start off with our Raw general manager, Stone Cold Steve Austin, who welcomes fans to the very first Raw of the new year. And he also welcomes all our Canadian fans because Austin says, we're finally making the trip back here to Canada for the first time in over 6 months. And as you can see, we're in Ontario, and we have not had a show in Canada thus far in our series. Why this one? We'll see. So Austin welcomes fans, as I said, to the this big edition of Raw on New Year's Day. He talks about kind of everything, the fallout from Armageddon, and he says, while Armageddon, was just yesterday, we are already looking ahead because now is the road to the Royal Rumble. And that's when Austin starts mentioning where we will have Edge defending the WWE Championship against Daniel Bryan. You'll have people like Big E, Cesaro, Sheamus, all these other talented wrestlers going to be involved perhaps in the Royal Rumble. You've got whatever the hell's going on with Randy Orton and Christian after Armageddon. You've got AJ Styles and his Bullet Club, which Austin, you can tell, is not very happy with having to mention that at all with AJ Styles. And I can promise you, Austin says, this will be a memorable road to the Royal Rumble. So Steve Austin kind of hyping everything up here, kind of just really getting into it as though this is a big start for Raw in the new year. And so this gets an 89. But as Austin goes to continue, here comes the Bullet Club. AJ Styles, Adam Cole, Finn Balor, and they slowly make their way into the ring. Austin standing there, as we know, Steve Austin not one to want to be interrupted. But they get into the ring, and that is when AJ Styles just walks up to Steve Austin, and he looks at him, stares him down, and then he just grabs the microphone away from Austin, who just looks down at that microphone, and he's looking up as Cole and Balor are just grinning at Austin, basically, teasing him, like, what are you going to do? Like, come on, like, what are you going to do to us? And Styles just standing there, staring at Austin the entire time. He takes the microphone away from him, and then Styles just goes over as though Steve Austin is not even there and begins to discuss what, he's been doing here. And AJ Styles says, you all saw last night, everyone who's doubted me, everyone who's doubted the Bullet Club, you saw last night what we're capable of. We took care of business against the rated RKO. Christian, it doesn't matter. It wouldn't have mattered who Edge and Randy Orton's partner would have been. The result would have been the same because the Bullet Club is here. And Styles says, for everyone who's been asking, what are we up to? Why are we doing this? What's going on? And Styles said, it's very clear because all three of us have been overlooked. All three of us, since we've come to WWE, we've not gotten the opportunities available. And everyone keeps thinking all this other stuff. Yeah, everyone can say that I was, at one point the champion and all this other stuff, but let's be honest. Everybody doesn't put me on the level of a John Cena. Everybody doesn't put me on the level of these other guys in WWE. But he says, you're finally starting to see that's where I belong, and that's what I've earned. And he says, just like Adam Cole's going to do, just like Finn Balor's going to do, the Bullet Club has earned the opportunity. And that's when he says, so for everyone out there, in case you were wondering, this is a complete takeover of not just Monday Night Raw, but of WWE, and you're going to see that this is only just the beginning. And so that's how Styles kind of finishes off, teasing that this is just the beginning for the Bullet Club, and there's a lot more to come here. So just kind of your sort of basic promo here for the Bullet Club to kind of hype their motivations as we do continue to move forward, head towards the Royal Rumble, coming off that big win in Armageddon. And so that's what you get here with this group. 89, so great segment back-to-back here for these two. And then we cut backstage, and it is Sasha Banks watching the screen, seeing all this stuff going on in the ring, and here comes Naomi. And Naomi walks in, and she, tells Sasha, look, I know we've had our differences in the past. We've had our ups, we've had our downs at times, but she says, I'm here. And you can see Sasha just kind of, give a smile. She seems very happy that Naomi's here, and she says, as you know, I was traded to Raw in the trade involving the person who I will not name. And the reason I want to say that is if you guys remember early in our save, remember that Jimmy Uso and Naomi divorced because there was a real-life affair between Jimmy Uso and Mandy Rose. So because Mandy was the one that was part of this trade, I decided that it would be kind of fun to trade Naomi for Mandy. So that was the direction we decided to go there. But so these two reunited here, Sasha Banks and Naomi, and boy, what perfect timing, right? That I picked to do this. I seemed like a great idea to put these two together. So Naomi walks in, says she looks forward to teaming with Sasha tonight in their tag team match. So that's kind of your setup here. 73 overall for this one. Naomi is on Raw, and we'll team up with Sasha Banks tonight. And no worries, they're not walking out before the match. 73 for this one. All right, and then we lead off match-wise with Chad Gable getting the win over Robert Roode here. Gets 65, so pretty good match, actually, for these two. When you look at the in-ring performances here. 11:40, Gable gets the win as uses the submission to do it. And we did do Still the Show on this one, I think. Yeah, so Still the Show for this one. So Gable putting on good performances here. Coming off that victory against Ali at Armageddon. And now gets a follow-up win against Robert Roode here. So Gable now 2-0 under the leadership of Kurt Angle. So 65 for this one. And then it is backstage. It is Edge, who is absolutely furious with Randy Orton and Christian. And Edge is, we're still getting the bickering back and forth. Randy Orton and Christian, we saw how the finish was at Armageddon, where it was kind of an inadvertent bump from Christian that may have caused Orton to kind of, lose his focus. That allowed Styles to hit the Styles Clash on Orton and pin Orton to give the Bullet Club the win. So Edge, though, is not having it. These two are bickering back and forth, and Edge just loses it. He says he's not dealing with this anymore. They cost him the opportunity last night to prove once and for all that they were going to finish AJ Styles and the Bullet Club. They just cost him that opportunity. And now Edge says, you know what? Now I got to turn my focus to Daniel Bryan. So I don't care what's going on with you two. I don't care if you beat the hell out of each other. Just go ahead and get it out of the way because I don't want it interrupting my WWE Championship reign and my match now that I'm going to have with Daniel Bryan. So he tells Orton and Christian, solve your own issues because I don't give a damn. I'm done with you two right now. I've got bigger things to worry about. So Edge storms off. He's pissed at these two, of course, because that did play into losing, their opportunity to beat the Bullet Club in our main event at Armageddon. So Edge, very unhappy WWE champion right now, and we see that Randy's got a gimmick that's getting stale, which I want to say is maybe not that bad considering where we're going here. So 79 overall for this one. And then back to Steve Austin, who is with the two teams that will compete for the WWE Tag Team Championships at the Royal Rumble. It is the team of Enigma, Jeff Hardy and Ricochet, and the Lucha Brothers, who earned their spot by beating the Street Profits at Armageddon. And Austin says he has made the tag team match official. The contract has been signed. It will be Jeff and Ricochet teaming up to challenge, the Lucha Brothers teaming up to challenge Jeff and Ricochet for the tag team titles. But Austin says, you know what? I want to spice things up a little bit. As I said a little bit earlier, the road to the Royal Rumble is going to be pretty exciting, but he says so will the Royal Rumble itself. And that's when he says, I look at you four, and I see a lot of things, he said, but what I see most is four athletic, high-flying gentlemen who can go out and put on a hell of a match in any circumstance. And that is when Austin says, so what we're going to do is we're going to give the fans what they want. And that's why your match for the tag team titles at the Royal Rumble will be contested in a ladder match for the championship. So there you go. Look, I was thinking, what's a way to kind of add another element to this match? We've got a pretty short build, as we keep saying with Raw. Like, Raw's kind of been stuck in this kind of short build for a little while, given all the pay-per-views we've had the past 3 months. But let's really raise the stakes here a little bit. Let's add another element here. And so it's going to be a ladder match for the tag team titles. And again, when I think about it, the Lucha Brothers and Jeff and Ricochet, I mean, why not? That could be a lot of fun. So Austin announcing a ladder match for the Royal Rumble here for our tag team titles. 62 for this one. And then as he's doing that, the teams exit, and here comes Bayley. Bayley's pissed because Bayley says she just found out that she's involved in this tag team match with Sasha Banks and Naomi. And she's thinking, what the hell are you talking about, Steve? I'm not wrestling tonight. What do you mean? I made it very clear at Armageddon, I am not wrestling. No, Austin says, you did not. He says, you made it clear that you were not going to defend your championship for a month. Contractually, not obligated to do that. And Austin says, I'm not happy about it. And he says, because of that, I told Rhea Ripley to stay away from the arena tonight. I told her not to show up because I didn't know what she was going to do to you after what you just did to her at Armageddon. So that's when Austin says, I don't care what you think. You're going to be in that tag team match tonight. You're going to team up with Carmella, and you're going to take on Sasha Banks and Naomi. And that's when Bayley just goes off. She just starts yelling, this is all a conspiracy. She says, this is just a big conspiracy. Everybody's out to get me. Everyone tried to get Rhea Ripley, to fight me at Armageddon when contractually I'm not obligated to do that. And Bayley just keeps yelling, like, this is a conspiracy. Everyone's trying to, take this title away from me, but it's not going to happen. And that's when Bayley just storms off, and Austin's like, man, we got enough of that conspiracy jackass on SmackDown. I got another conspiracy person now on Raw, and Austin just shaking his head as Bayley walks off. So Bayley apparently joining in on the possible conspiracy here. So there you go. Austin, is basically throwing Bayley into the match. We'll see how it plays out. 68 for this one. All right, and then it is Randy Orton getting the win over Drew Gulak, 448. The running punt here. Poor Gulak. 68 for this one. As you'll see, this is more of a bigger theme here, just putting Orton in action. Orton, and the reason why we made it short, of course, is because we know Orton's kind of pissed with everything going on with Christian. So Orton just destroys Drew Gulak here. Sorry to Mr. Gulak, but he just gets destroyed in this match. And then after the match is sort of the bigger story, as here comes Christian. He's coming out as Randy Orton exits because Christian also has a match tonight, as Christian's going to take on Dominic Mysterio. And Christian comes out, and these two are just jawing back and forth. They're taunting each other again. Like, it just will not stop between Randy Orton and Christian right now. And they are just going back and forth here. Orton's making his exit. Christian's making his entrance. And we get a 73 out of this one. So these two just continuing to go back and forth. They're just not happy with one another. So that's where things are at on that. And speaking of the match, Orton's out of here. Christian's to the ring. It will be Christian taking on Dominic Mysterio. And, In a 64 match, so not terrible, but decent. I think that's the right word. Christian gets the win over Dominic, 12:06, and he does it by using the spear, raised at ringside, of course. We see Christian 65, not bad on the in-ring performance here. Dominic still struggling with a 44, so a long way to go for Dominic. But as we looked in the state of WWE, he is still in our, the top prospects, or I don't remember what it was. Next big, I don't think he's next big thing, but Rising, whichever one. I can't remember. But Christian gets the win here, and that gives Christian a victory. So his match a little bit longer than Orton. So Orton just came out and just destroyed Gulag. Christian gets Dominic here, and a bit of a nice back and forth match. We did make this a bit of an open match, give Dominic a little something. So 64 for this one. But after the match, Christian heads out. He's got his hard fought victory. Meanwhile, Angel Garza back in the front row again, and Garza is just sort of shouting some encouragement at Dominic Mysterio. Garza's just, Dominic, we see Dominic walking by, and Garza just standing up, he's just kind of clapping at Dominic. He's like, "Yeah, man, you'll get him next time. I'm seeing a lot of good things out there from you." And that is when Rey Mysterio just finally realizes this, and for some reason, Rey's just like, "All right, I'm done. I'm done with this Garza guy." Because we see Garza kind of trying to give some sort of encouragement to Dominic, and all we see at that point is Rey jump up on the apron, and my goodness, Rey Mysterio just flies off the apron and leaps at Angel Garza, and just basically, with a flying drop kick or something here, and just takes out Garza, who's kind of leaning over in the front row. So he kind of just jumps on the apron. Rey just takes this guy out. And so Rey's had enough. He's tired of Garza and whatever he's up to out here at the ring. We've seen this, of course, multiple weeks, and Rey's just like, "All right, I'm done with this. It's a new year. I'm not having this, man." So Rey takes out Garza, and Dominic just kind of looks down, and he's just kind of like, "All right, whatever." Like Dominic just really doesn't have much of a reaction to this, and then Rey and Dominic walk off as Garza tries to sort of gather himself after being taken out by Rey here. So 58 for this one. A lot more to come with this storyline. And then we get official announcements here that 3 competitors have officially been added to the Men's Royal Rumble match, and that is going to be Big E, Cesaro, and Sheamus, who are all announced for the Royal Rumble, and that is when we cut to some quick sort of, video promos here from each of them. We get to Sheamus, who, Sheamus kind of talks about how he's finding his way back, and he said he's still got some people on his list that he hasn't forgotten about, and he said that still includes Finn Balor, that still includes the Bullet Club, everyone else, Edge, everyone's still on his list. Sheamus says, "I don't forget," and that's why he says, "I'm going to go win the Royal Rumble and get, my shot at the WWE Championship." So Sheamus just kind of trying to, fight his way back up here after a recent loss to Balor. And then we get a promo from Cesaro. Cesaro kind of talking about, last night was a very disappointing performance for me. And, I had my shot, but Daniel just got me. And, congratulations to him. I respect all my opponents last night, Big E, Daniel Bryan. But he says, when I get in that Royal Rumble, I don't respect anyone because I know I've had my opportunities. I've had 2 opportunities. But he said, this may be my last opportunity, so I have to win the Royal Rumble to get my shot at, the WWE champion. So that is what Cesaro is kind of setting up here for him. And then it's Big E, and you can tell Big E is disappointed. Like, he's not his sort of happy, usual self here. Big E says, "I let it slip away. Daniel Bryan, congratulations to him, but I let it slip away." And he said, "I'm not happy about it. And, still, I want to point out, no one's beaten me yet. Since we've had this, since I've come to Raw, I haven't been beaten. No one's pinned me." And that's why Big E says, but the Royal Rumble's not about pins. It's about strength. It's about power. And that's when he says, there's no one stronger. There's no one more powerful than me. And Big E says, for all the talk out there about this person and that person winning the Royal Rumble, they're going to have to go through me because I'm going to walk in there and I'm going to prove that I am the strongest, I'm the most powerful, and in the Royal Rumble match, that's what matters. And I'm going to get my opportunity to go on to the WrestleMania main event and challenge for the World Championship. So there you go. Just kind of some quick promos there. I'm going to do these, as you'll see. We'll have kind of this focus to kind of get everyone announced for the Rumble, although not everyone will be announced. There will be some surprises. But this is kind of a theme we'll use moving forward to kind of keep everyone involved, knowing that not everyone's going to be in matches, and this just kind of keeps people on the show, and we can do some of these kind of hype promos to get you ready for the Rumble and to give people motivation. Like, let's give people motivation for the Rumble match. They're not just thrown into the match. Why are they there? What are they going to accomplish? Like, those kind of things. We're going to add in those little story tidbits as we go along. 83 here. Good stuff for this one. All right, and speaking of Daniel Bryan, he comes to the ring. And he is officially the number one contender for the WWE Championship. And he, this is Bryan reflecting on his journey. He's talked about 2021 was not the best year for him. Just when he thought he had it all, he had his WWE Championship back. It was taken away from him in a matter of minutes. And, that's when Bryan says, when that happened, I really doubted a lot of things. He said, I thought that could be my last run with the WWE Championship, and what a last run, right? For me to win the championship, beat Bobby Lashley, and then to have it taken away from me in seconds, minutes, by Edge and Randy Orton. Bryan said that he just thought that was it for him. But now he gets his chance one more time. He said, this may be it. Like, I thought that was it, but he said, I know this is probably it for me. This is my last chance. Can I be able to kind of get through now and get my championship back? It's what I've thought about every single day since SummerSlam. And he says, and now I've finally gotten my opportunity. Before Bryan can continue, though, 88 for this one, so another great segment. Here comes Edge. And Edge comes out at 84. I would have liked this to be a little bit higher, but Edge says, Daniel, the one thing I've never talked about is the reason why I cashed in on you. And everyone thought it just came out of nowhere and thought it was just this big surprise. But Edge says that really wasn't it at all. He says, the reason why I cashed in on you is because I knew you were not the old Daniel Bryan. And he said, I wouldn't have cashed in on Bobby Lashley because Bobby Lashley was at the top of his game. But you? He said, you're not the old Daniel Bryan. You're not as cerebral as you used to be. You don't think as much. You're just out here off of emotion. You're out here for one last run. He said, that's all you're thinking about. You're thinking about retirement, when it's all going to be over. You're not thinking about, all these years ahead, all these moves ahead. And that's why Edge said, I knew that you would never suspect a thing. And that's why I cashed in on you, because you were vulnerable, and you still are, because you're not the Daniel Bryan from WrestleMania 30. You're not the Daniel Bryan from Ring of Honor. He said, you're the Daniel Bryan that's one spear away from being out of WWE forever and going into your retirement. And so Edge is really getting, he's taking aim here at Daniel Bryan. And so Bryan, responds and says, well, the one thing that's going to be different this time, when we get to the Royal Rumble, you can say whatever you want, Edge, but the one thing that's going to be different, where's Randy Orton? You're having some problems with Randy Orton. He's the person that got you the championship in the first place. Without Randy Orton, you don't beat me at SummerSlam and cash in and win the championship. So he says, everyone wants to know, Edge, can you really get the job done one-on-one without Randy Orton? And he said, oh, but then again, now that I think about it, you've got Christian. So you've always got someone around. But can you really step into the ring with me and get the job done in a one-on-one match with me? That's what I want to know. I want the old Edge. Can the old Edge, who used to come out, one-on-one by himself, the rated R superstar, didn't need anyone, can you actually do that and beat me one-on-one in the match? And that's when Bryan says, that's my challenge to you. And that's just kind of Bryan's message here to Edge. So back and forth sparring here. 84 for this one. And these promos, I know it's kind of longer promo, but these are the things we're going to have to use to build up to these matches, because again, we don't have a lot of time to get there. I mean, each episode, we got to pack in a lot of stuff. So really just kind of a little more motivation behind where things stand with Edge and Bryan. More to come, of course, as we head towards this big match at the Rumble for the WWE Championship. 84 for this one. And then this is that tag team match we were talking about a little while ago, as Sasha Banks and Naomi get the win over Bayley and Carmella. 9:40, Naomi gets the win on Carmella. Of course, Carmella, the weak link here. I don't think that's too surprising. Sasha off her game, but Bayley gets a 71. Sasha 68, so still not bad. But pretty much the story here, of course, is that Bayley just refuses. Carmella keeps trying to tag her in, and Bayley's just every time she has an excuse why she can't get in the ring. So this is kind of one of those things we're going to push where Bayley actually never gets in the ring here, as it's just Carmella having to go up against Sasha and Naomi. Bayley, no part of it. So once again, even though Austin puts her in this match, Bayley navigating around the rules and doesn't actually get involved here. So 62, but a pretty decent match for these four. But Sasha and Naomi get the win here for this one. And then backstage, it is Kurt Angle who is going over, basically the match tape with Chad Gable. And it is, the match from earlier. Gable got the win over Roode. And it is Angle going over the tape with Gable, and in walks the Bullet Club. And that is when we get another stare down from AJ Styles in this episode. Earlier it was Steve Austin. Now it is AJ Styles staring down Kurt Angle. And we, of course, know the history between these two. So tension sort of going up a bit here. Styles and Angle staring each other down. And that is when Finn Balor steps up and gets between the two and says, boys, we're here for a reason. And that's when, Balor starts talking about, Chad, you caught our eye out there. And, maybe at some point you need to think about being in the Bullet Club. And that's when Kurt's just shaking his head like, come on, we're not doing this, guys. He's not joining the Bullet Club. Let's just stop now. And that's when Finn Balor says, we'll see, Kurt. We'll see what happens here. But that's when he says, Chad, if you want some real competition, if you really want to prove to Kurt here that, you have what it takes to get to the top, then why don't you meet me in the ring next week here on Raw? And so Finn Balor throwing down the challenge to Chad Gable, and Kurt Angle is just kind of, holding off Gable here for a second. But then Gable just gets giddy, and he's like, you got it. Like he says, I'll take on anybody. He's just like Kurt Angle, just like my mentor. I'll take on anybody out there in the ring. And that's when, so Gable just kind of accepts the challenge here from Finn Balor. And Kurt's just kind of looking at Gable almost as though, I wish you wouldn't have did that. We still got a lot to figure out here. We got a lot to go over. But makes it official that, Gable accepts. So we're going to have Finn Balor versus Chad Gable next week on Raw. And that is when, Bullet Club starts to walk out. And Styles just turns around again and just has a bit of a stare down here with Kurt Angle. So a 70 overall for this one. Sets up a match for next week. Gable and Balor. That should be a fun one, I think. All right, and then we get an announcement that next week as well, we've got Chad Gable versus Finn Balor, and we're also going to have Becky Lynch is going to be in action. So will Angelo Dawkins and Montez Ford. So a lot of stuff set up for next week is Becky Lynch, and then it'll be singles action. Montez Ford and Angelo Dawkins each going to be in singles action next week. So there are four matches when you consider Gable versus Finn Balor, and you're also going to have Becky in action, Angelo Dawkins, and Montez Ford. So there is your setup for that. So Becky officially makes her return to Raw next week after that big promo she had at Armageddon, kind of giving an update on where things stand. And then, of course, the Street Profits coming off that loss to the Lucha Brothers in that number one contenders match. So 79 here for this one. And then here comes Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens makes his way down to the ring. We get an 87 here. Of course, we're in Canada. Canada. Kevin Owens makes his way down to the ring, and he says, as always, everyone saw, what happened last night in Armageddon. I had one of the toughest matches I've had so far since I started this open challenge against Johnny Gargano. But Owens says, just like I've always done, I walked out with the championship. But that's when he says, you know what, though? That one didn't feel as good as a lot of the others have felt. And that's when Owens says, the reason why is I have to admit, I didn't beat Johnny Gargano. He said, I thought I had him. right there at the end, I thought I had him. But he kicked out. We went to the time limit, and no one walked out a winner. I walked out with my championship, but no one walked out a winner. And so Owens says, that's why. After the match, I told Johnny Gargano to be ready, because I told him that tonight I'm going to have another open challenge, but I want him to be the one that comes out and accepts this open challenge. And so Owens says, I'm calling you out, Johnny Gargano. Come on out. Let's do this again right here, right now. So an 87 here for this segment. And here comes Johnny Gargano, who makes his way out. And again, coming off of this unbelievable performance at Armageddon, our 30-minute time limit draw that these two went to, the longest match in our series thus far. And so Gargano comes out, and Owens, just kind of telling him again, I want you to accept this challenge. And Gargano's just kind of looking around at the crowd. He's trying to figure out, is this his best use here? Should he actually accept this challenge? He's kind of pointing at his ribs and other things like, man, I'm beat up. Like, I don't know if I should do this now. But then finally, Gargano extends his hand. Owens extends his hand. And these two shake hands to pretty much insinuate like this is happening. And so we may be getting our rematch here. And that is when these two shake hands. They get ready to go to opposite corners. 72. We hear the music. And here comes Sami Zayn. And Sami Zayn quickly out on the ramp here. And he says, whoa, 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 whoa. Sami says, not so fast, guys. Because you see, I've been saying for months that there's a conspiracy going on here in WWE. Little did I know that conspiracy went beyond John Cena and Mick Foley's attempts to hold me down and for me and The Miz to unfairly not get our tag team title rematch. Oh, no. It goes way beyond that, everyone. And that is when Miz says, or that's when Sami Zayn says, and Kevin, a few weeks ago, I started to have a hunch that someone else was in on this conspiracy, and that someone was you. And what do you know? As always, I was right. And Sami says, all this time, you've been doing these U.S. title open challenges. Everyone thought that only Raw competitors or all these has-beens like Goldberg and Rob Van Dam could accept these challenges. But Sami says, last month, when you allowed, quote-unquote, NXT wrestlers to challenge you, the conspiracy was on full display. So I asked myself, why not a SmackDown wrestler to accept your open challenge? And that's when I realized I had the answer. So I went all the way to Stamford, Connecticut, to WWE headquarters to get a copy of the open challenge contract. And it turns out there's nothing in there that says a SmackDown wrestler, despite the brand split, cannot challenge for the U.S. Championship in your open challenge. So, Kev, what I have in my hands right here is a legally binding contract with the signature of the man that's challenging you for the United States title right here, right now. So, Big John, grab a seat because that man is me. So Sami Zayn has gone all the way to WWE headquarters to secure a copy of the open challenge contract. And he has been the one to sign the contract and accept the open challenge for tonight's edition of Raw here in Ontario. And so it is official. Owens looking around, looking at Gargano, and we have a referee that makes their way out, and it is set. It is going to be Sami Zayn challenging Kevin Owens for the United States Championship in the next installment of the Open Challenge. This gets a 77. And now we jump into the match. So we have a big back and forth match between these two rivals, Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, just duking it out, really going at each other. You can see Owens kind of, favoring himself a little bit, because let's remember, he just came off of a 30-minute, basically unbelievable challenge here with Johnny Gargano the night before. So 24 hours later, Owens stepping into the ring here, probably not at 100%, coming off that Gargano match. So Sami trying to keep the upper hand, but it all kind of turns towards Kevin Owens. And so Owens finally gets the upper hand here, but then out of the crowd, here comes The Miz. And The Miz goes over, and he goes to grab Kevin Owens' leg. And just as he goes over to grab the leg, he starts to get his arm around Owens' leg. While Zayn is distracting the referee, here comes Gargano, who did do what Sami said. He did take a seat ringside to watch this match, wondering, okay, maybe I need to kind of check this out, since he's in line for, a next opportunity perhaps. And Gargano runs over, crowd's going wild. And so when Miz goes to try to hook his arm around Owens' leg, it is Gargano who pulls The Miz off, and these two start brawling on the outside. Owens turns around into this, and he's just kind of looking down at what's going on with The Miz and Johnny Gargano. And then, from behind, in the exact same fashion that Sami Zayn did at Survivor Series to John Cena, Sami Zayn rolls Kevin Owens up with a little bit of the tights, and Sami Zayn has stolen the United States Championship from Kevin Owens. He rolls him up in the exact same fashion. A little bit of the tights are used, and Sami Zayn is your new United States champion. There you go. 80 overall for the match. Great chemistry between these two. I'm not surprised. Owens with a 94. That has to be the highest yet. We did do still the show here. We keep Owens strong. But Sami Zayn has walked into Monday Night Raw on New Year's Day in Ontario, Canada, and he has stolen the United States Championship. He is the new champion, and he did it the exact same way he did at Survivor Series, where The Miz, if you remember, The Miz hooked John Cena's leg at Survivor Series after Cena had eliminated Miz, and from there, that was when Zayn got Cena, rolled him up, used the tights, and eliminated John Cena from that Survivor Series match. Same scenario here, minus Johnny Gargano just getting to The Miz, but that's enough of a distraction to allow Sami Zayn to do the same thing he did to John Cena. And he pins Kevin Owens to win the title. So, there you go, folks. There are a lot of questions, right? A lot of questions coming out of this now. What's going to happen with the United States Championship? What's happening with Sami Zayn? What is Kevin Owens going to do? What does this mean for Johnny Gargano? So many questions coming out of our New Year's Day edition of Raw, which ends with one of our most memorable moments yet in our save. There you go. I know there's been a lot of Kevin Owens and a lot of Sami Zayn fame, which is kind of funny because let's just finish the show here. Gets an 80 for the match, 83, so just a great edition of Raw. But when we did our State of WWE, I asked you guys for your awards, and the common thread in all the awards, I realized, two names kept popping up more than any, and that was Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. And like the smile on my face when I saw that, knowing that we had already booked this scenario right here for our first edition of Raw, like I can't even tell you guys how excited I was knowing we were going to get to this. And I'm like, okay, everyone's kind of loved what's going on with Owens. Everyone's loved Zayn so far. I'm like, boom, we're about to put the two together and you guys don't even know it. So, so there you go. 83, you can hear, like, this was one of my favorite shows to book thus far. And again, not just for the main event situation, but everything else. Like, there's just so much stuff that's set in motion here that I promise you will see play out And yeah, it's just, we got a lot of great stuff in store here on the road to the Rumble and WrestleMania. So 83 for this one. Let's see what we need to get to before we wrap up. All right, so that was Raw, and congratulations to Tenzan and Chono, as they're going to get their spot in the New Japan Hall of Fame. So congratulations to them. Raw gets a positive show, liking it. I thought we had struck gold. I mean, 83 is not bad, but again, we've raised expectations so high at this point that I don't even care. That was such a fun episode of Raw. I don't care what the rating was. I don't care what the feedback was from whoever's the raters in this particular game. So Ivar's contract's ending, so we'll have to re-sign Ivar. Drug test fees. Raw gets a 4.03. That may be the highest rating for Raw yet, so we'll see. Time to heal. Kevin Owens. Feeling the effects of a grueling schedule and wants to know if he can have some time off. Well, I mean, I don't think we could have booked that any better, right? Because Owens has gone through this open challenge and had so many matches and the grueling grind of everything. He's had to get to that point. And so he's like, I'm ready to take some time off right after I lose the championship in a stunning, just truly stunning fashion. So we'll keep that in mind with Owens. But there you go. That was Raw. And I will go ahead and say now, like I told you guys this in night 2 of the Mae Young Classic at the beginning, if you're going, which I hope you do, please do comment. I'd love your feedback. But please mark it with a spoiler so that we don't spoil what happened in this episode just in the comments. So if you're, I want all your comments, your feedback. I think it's going to be great. But please mark spoiler or just, be very vague in your response. But just all I ask is don't necessarily reveal in the comments without a spoiler of some sort what happened here. Just because I want people to, truly be stunned by what's about to go down in this episode, which if you're watching this, you already know what happened. So that way it doesn't spoil anyone in the comments. So yes, what a hopefully memorable edition of Raw for you guys. And as you'll see, the road to the Royal Rumble has quickly gone up just with our first edition of Raw in the new year. So be sure to like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff, and check out the AEW 2022 series. We're 10 episodes into that now, WCW 1998. I know that one's kind of, it's been probably almost a week and a half since I had an episode on that, but we just had a lot to get to here with our WWE one coming off Armageddon, going into the new year, and this being such a big edition of Raw. I wanted to get all that done. So we'll have WCW 1998 episodes back as well as our pay-per-view week for that one sold out. So big match, Sting and Hollywood Hogan for the WCW World title in the main event of Sold Out. So you can check that out. Also Bret Hart versus Ric Flair. So big card for WCW 1998. So go through, check that out, and we'll have new episodes on that soon enough. So, but on the next episode of our WWE 2022 save, it will be SmackDown for January Week 1.